need to shout! Why are you yelling?
Hey! We're recording the podcast! Shut up!
I feel like I can't yell. Good morning to you, wherever you are, because it is
Morning Somewhere!
for September 2nd, 2024. My name is Burning Burns. Sitting right over there, she's just some random lady. She's just a random lady.
Just a random lady.
Ashley Burns, everybody. That's the highest praise you can give someone in today's society. Just a random lady.
It's true. That's me. Good morning. Happy Monday. Welcome back to a whole new week.
Ashley and I are hungover this morning. Happy Labor Day if you are in the U.S., by the way. If you celebrate labor wherever you are. I imagine there are some pregnant ladies who are going into labor on Labor Day. And they're probably already sick of people telling them that.
They're like, how about that Labor Day? Am I right?
Can't be the drugs.
All the maternity ward nurses are like, all right, everyone got their script. All right, let's go. We got this. Every single joke.
No, the maternity ward nurses, no. Don't make the fucking joke. Just stay away from it. It's like if you've ever been a guy and you've had to get a ultrasound on your testicles. I had to get that one time. We immediately took a left turn at the beginning of this podcast.
Yeah, we had plans, and now I'm going to hear about your testicle ultrasound. Go ahead.
I actually had a nurse tell me, like, while I was getting an ultrasound on my testicles, because they were afraid I might have had testicular cancer when I was younger, but I had what's called epididymitis. You can look that up if you want to. Have a great Monday. She said, just so you know, this is uncomfortable for a lot of patients, but we've all heard the "is it a girl or a boy" joke, or am I pregnant? Just let it go. Just don't even make the joke. She cut me off in advance.
So the epididymitis is an inflammation of the epididymis, a long coiled tube at the back of each testicle that stores and carries sperm.
I love the fact that I love when definitions include the word as part of the definition. It's such a fuck you.
No, it's not, Bernie. It did not include the word because the epididymitis is an inflammation of the epididymis, which is a totally different word.
But that's the one you're looking up what that is, right? You want to know what the epididymis is. You don't want to know what the itis is.
Well, it's a little bit though, like you're like sinusitis. That just means that your sinus is inflamed, right? If you just add an itis to whatever part of the body it is, I'm like, I've got a knee-itis. My knee's all inflamed.
I was so nerdy. You know what I did? You know what I did in high school? That was my big claim to fame.
What did you do?
I was in the state tournament for medical terminology, among other things. But I was in the state tournament for the Health Occupations Students of America. So the suffix itis refers to inflammation. So all they did in that definition was just tell you what itis means. That's all that they told you.
Perfect.
It's like if they said, what's sinusitis? And you look it up, it's an itis of the sinus. It is frustrating. Don't you get frustrated, though, when you go to look up the definition of something?
And it uses,
the word in the definition, that none of the words in the word should be used in the definition of the word. Nothing. You should get no syllables, not one.
All right, new rule. Dictionary guys, get on that.
Listen up, Webster. You and Miriam get together and figure this shit out because we don't want to deal with it anymore.
You and your word nerds sort it out.
But we are slightly hungover today.
We are, without having actually drunk anything.
Why are we hungover?
Well, we watched Borderlands.
As a service to our Patreon subscribers, we watched the premium home edition of Borderlands, home video. We could rent it or buy it. We could rent it for $20 or we could buy it for $25. Let me tell you something. $5 goes a long way. I'm going to tell you this out there. It might seem like you have to buy it for the extra $5. Think of all the things you could do with $5.
Look, if you spend, and here's the downside.
Because I'm thinking about it.
You spend that extra $5, and that that movie's going to live in your library forever.
That was a conversation.
All right, you'll never be free of it. So we watched it. If you want to hear what a couple of like shell-shocked viewers sound like coming out of that movie, check that out on Patreon right now. But I went to look this up because we've had a couple movies that came out, didn't do great in theaters. Then they hit premium video on demand and they went right to the top of the charts, right? That's happened a couple of times recently. So I went to see if Borderlands is going to be one of those lucky chart topping recipients. It is not.
It should be, though.
It is not. So it came out on Friday. They didn't make a big announcement about it. There was one site that has in the past correctly predicted Lionsgate's streaming window and like when it's going to come out based on when it hit theaters and so on. And that's what all of the August 30th news was based on. So it did come out on that day, correctly anticipated. No headlines, nothing. They just like quietly slipped it out there.
It's probably still in theaters, right? Some theaters.
Depends if the theater's got literally nothing else to show.
Wouldn't it be funny if it like started to take off? Like people were just waiting till Labor Day weekend to watch Borderlands. I'll look at the box office. It's got to be in there somewhere.
They were like, I'm making plans. I'm just waiting. It's gonna get there. But no, Borderlands has hit. At least this is the iTunes US chart. It is come in at number 7, following Twisters, Inside Out 2, Trap, Despicable Me 4, Long Legs, and the original Beetlejuice.
It's so weird too because the how's Coraline in there? Did they put Coraline in a video? They've got a big problem on their hands.
Coraline's number 20.
Let me see. Borderlands is currently number 23 at the box office. It did $88,000 over the weekend. So it looks like Borderlands is not going to make much more movement from its $15.5 million gross at the domestic box office. Wowza. 4 weeks in distribution. Number 1 at the box office this week, Deadpool and Wolverine. Wow, crazy.
That movie's got legs.
Yeah, so does It Ends With Us. It Ends With Us domestically is up to $135 million. They will figure out a way to mend fences in that production, I think, and make It Ends With Us 2, whatever it's called.
Yeah, we talked about the sort of speculation and the sort of behind-the-scenes drama with It Ends With Us and how that seems like the new wave of marketing for romantic movies is that behind-the-scenes dramas translates to ticket sales. There's been some skepticism about that because this drama has turned a lot of people on Blake Lively, and that why would she ever agree to that? I'm telling you why. $130 million.
Yeah, but it's controversy.
You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
It's just marketing, right? It just gets people talking about it. But that was kind of your logic behind why Borderlands would have a big home video release. It didn't. Long story short on the Borderlands thing, I'm a lot more positive in the public space about other people's art than I was in our private conversation, I think, about Patreon, on Patreon. I would say overall, Borderlands, I'm very much in line with how everyone else is. It wasn't for me. There were people who watched it with us who had no introduction to the source material, had no experience.
They knew nothing about the video games. They didn't even know it was an adaptation. They were just watching the movie because we said we were going to sit down and watch the movie. And they said, I'll sit down and watch it with you. And they enjoyed it. They said it was fun. It was a fun, turn your brain off and just, have a fun 2 hours movie. So there are people who enjoy it. It is possible.
They just got to see it. Yeah, they got to find out about this movie and then be interested to go see it. They thought it was a weird Star Wars meets Mad Max thing, and I thought, okay,
which isn't actually all that inaccurate an interpretation.
Not at all. I think the most valuable thing about Borderlands that we're going to learn, and I think educational experiences, you pay for them, and we are all learning from this one. I think with video games, here's the formula: just make the game. That's it. Just make the game. Don't go out. Don't do a big interpretation. Just make the game. And I think Last of Us taught us that.
Unless you're Fallout.
And then you can't really make the game, so you got to have some kind of interpretation. I think unfortunately Fallout is going to be the rabbit for a lot of creators who make video game movies, because they're going to say if we can change things a little bit and make it our own and do it perfectly, that's the brass ring and we can grab that.
I think it kind of depends too. If you're making an adaptation, what's the meat of the thing? Is it the story or is it the world? Right? So Fallout has the benefit of being a series where you've played throughout the series many different scenarios in this world, right? You've played different parts of the world, different characters, and the world has been the sort of cohesive character on its own. Then you have The Last of Us, which is a strongly narrative series. If you have this sort of open world sandboxy adventure thing, then maybe the Fallout direction is the way to go. And maybe that's what Borderlands should have done. Instead, they tried to tackle, they tried to lump bits of story from multiple games into one movie and do all of it badly.
Well, in the case of Borderlands as well, you do have the ability to look across multiple iterations of the game now, 4 or 5 different, even if you go into the Telltale stuff, tons of different stories that were told in the Borderlands universe. Kind of like comics, they had 6 decades to pick stuff from. That being said, if you make a comic book franchise about a new comic book character, what's the first movie? Always.
It's always an origin story.
Always an origin story. And we're not tired of that. And it's whoever they're going to introduce, you're going to get the origin story for the first movie.
Even if you've
don't
seen
stray from
the
that.
origin story in like iterations before, guess what? You're getting a motherfucking origin story.
Exactly. And even if you've seen like 20,000 origin stories for different comic book characters, you're going to go and you're going to see the origin story in the first one, and it's a formula, and it works. And you can do the first half of the movie as the origin story and do the second half as something else. Like Iron Man was issue number 1 of Iron Man and issue number 200. Just those two things mushed together. And with comics, there's so much source material you can just kind of pick and choose, cherry pick the best stuff. But in video games, just the formula, I think, is just make the first game. Even if it's a franchise. Like Borderlands 2, I just said Borderlands 2. Borderlands, the movie, I think they reached out too much into the other stuff. They should have just done the first one.
Yeah, and if you done it, executed it well, and then guess what? The template's already there for your sequel.
Yeah. I mean, they even taking characters like Tiny Tina and bringing her forward to the first Borderlands movie. They didn't need to do that. Anyway, already talking more about this. If you're interested more in deep thoughts about Borderlands, then we have not really that long of a discussion. Usually our movie discussions are an hour. That one was 20 minutes.
Yeah, well, and as you said in that one, it is a full spoiler discussion. But there's not that much to spoil.
I literally don't think you can spoil anything in that movie. Like, you couldn't ruin anything about the movie by learning about it beforehand.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I really don't. But maybe I'm crazy.
That said, I actually would love to hear from people who enjoyed the movie. Because it is possible.
Yeah,
we know we talked to some people who watched it last night with us who were like, yeah, I liked it. And we're like, really fascinating.
Yeah, we've seen them. We've talked to these people in real life. We have them under observation currently.
But of course, that's not the only thing going on, Bernie. Also going on, the Paralympics are continuing.
Yes. Can I talk about my Paralympian of the day?
Yes, please do.
My Paralympian of the day is, she did not medal. It is the Indian para-archer. She was born without arms. Sheetal Devi. There was a clip of her that went viral of her shooting a near perfect dead center bullseye with no arms. And even just watching her notch the arrow. You say notch or knock?
Knock the arrow, I think.
Knock the arrow, right? With no K, just N-O-C-K.
It's N-O-C-K, yeah.
She loaded her bow. Just watching her do it with no arms, it just speaks to how adaptable human beings are as a species. It's just so incredible.
Look,
to watch her do it.
Once or twice in my life, I've dropped like a pencil or something on the ground. Pick it up with my feet, and I was like, yeah, good job, feet.
You ever throw it to yourself? Like, grab something with your toes and throw it in the air and catch it?
No, I feel like that requires some pretty intensive hacky sack training, which I never received.
Did you get in trouble as a kid if you tried to pick something up with your feet?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Why? Why do parents go after kids for picking stuff up with their feet?
I mean, I guess it comes down to like manners, but what it must really come down to as well is like feet dirty, touch thing with feet, now thing dirty.
Also, let's point out the fact that we were walking around barefoot, right? I mean, that was the thing we did. I was talking with JD about this because he said he got a big splinter. Do you say splinter or do you say sliver?
It depends on the moment.
Okay. He got a splinter in his hand because we were working on this woodshed, and he talked about how he feels like he got a lot more splinters as a kid. And I said, the thing that used to happen to me a lot more when I was a kid that hasn't happened to me, I feel like, in 2 decades, is getting glass in my foot.
Oh, yeah, I got glass in my foot all the time.
Is glass different now from when we were kids? Because I'm not talking being outside and running around bare feet, which I did all the time anyway. I'm talking if somebody broke a jar in the kitchen, a week later, I would have a piece of glass in my foot. Like, we wouldn't get it all. And it was an event in the house. Well, getting the glass out of my foot.
I was going to say it may have been treated a little bit differently at the time. That run a vacuum over the area and you're good, right? When we break something in the kitchen,
glass is good for you, kid.
This is like it's a full scale quarantine. Everyone's out of the kitchen. We do a sweep up, then we do a vacuum over the entire room.
There's another step here that is a very modern technology step as well, which you do.
Oh, is that when I shine a flashlight on it?
Yes, Ashley clued me into something, which is she has a flashlight in her pocket, as we all do now on our smartphones, which is cool. That's like, it's cool that we always just have a flashlight with us.
And a calculator.
And yeah, that's great. That's great too.
I'll take that, teacher.
Or an assistant we can talk to and ask her to do basic equations for us. But if you're looking for something with a flashlight, don't hold the flashlight and look at the ground. Put the flashlight on the ground and run the light parallel to the ground, and you'll make a shadow with whatever's taller than the ground.
Just look for the strange shadows. The glass will be found.
Even if it's something small like a shard of glass, if it's on like tile or something like that, like our kitchen is, then it's easier to find. And that's, I don't know, that's cool. Anyway.
Life pro tips.
So I don't know why my parents got upset with me for picking up stuff with my feet. It wouldn't occur to me to get upset with Finn for doing that. I guess it just looks weird.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But you know what? Keep training, and you can get like archery bullseyes with your feet.
She got eliminated by 1 point. She was a favorite to win the gold, and of course, she's a viral hit. So then she becomes everyone's favorite, including my own. But then she was eliminated in the round of 16 by 1 point. 1 point.
That's hard.
Slim margin of victory in these Olympics, man.
People are already looking forward to seeing her in 4 years at the 2028 Olympics in LA. So that's a good sign.
While we have Olympians without arms, did you hear this thing in Mexico where they're trying to pass a rule with judges with no faces? That sounds weird the way I said it. That sounds like a Borderlands thing. There's now a thing where judges who are presiding over cases against cartels, they're talking about masking the judges. And I don't know what you think of, but I immediately think of like a luchador mask. That's probably a little racist on my part, but I can't help but think that.
I was immediately picturing psycho masks from Borderlands.
Were you?
Because that's where my brain has been.
I mean, they got to use something that's not a black hood. That would be really fucking creepy. If they're wearing like a classic executioner's mask with the holes cut out and the rope around the neck, that'd be rough.
Well, and as I understand it, right, the reason that they're considering this is because there's been at least one execution of a judge and a lot of other death threats because just the overall gang violence, trafficking, and drug running in the cartels. So that they're trying to hopefully protect the judges by anonymizing them.
This to me feels though like the thing where they have a rat problem, so they bring in cats and then they bring in dogs to solve the cat problem. So you're always escalating to solve the problem.
So you're saying that Mexico is the old woman who swallowed the fly?
And eventually you've got the Wolverines that are just running around in the court like mauling people to death. And then you gotta bring in the Grizzlies to get rid of them. Yeah, it's just I don't know. I recognize and I have no solution for the problem, but it's just sitting in court with a judge in a mask just feels like a really strange thing.
Well,
really strange.
On a related note, since we're talking about Mexico and cartels and everything, there was a headline. I'm going to read this to you. This is from AP News. Methamphetamine disguised as shipment of watermelons seized at the U.S.-Mexico border in San Diego. Now, that's not hilarious. It is a lot of methamphetamine. It's like 2,000
what is that?
kilograms.
But I just saw the picture in the chat. What is that?
So this is we're going to try to not do too many visual aids in this podcast, but I'm going to post this in the link dump because this is worth seeing. They look like beach balls with a watermelon
That's what it looks like.
pattern, right? Is they put a bunch of these balls, these watermelon bags in a shipment of watermelons, and then put them they just shipped them along.
It looks like a deflated beach ball. I mean, if they'd inflated it, it would have passed as a watermelon a little bit more. It looks like a kid drew a watermelon pattern on a shopping bag.
And that'll pass muster. They shipped 1,220 of these beach ball looking watermelons and thought this will get through no problem.
You know what's crazy to me is you hear about all these crazy things where they hide drugs. You ever see the thing where this was an immigration thing. They hit a guy in a seat for a thing.
I
They
did see that.
dressed him like a seat in a van where they had him sit in a sitting position. They covered him like pleather so that he would look like a seat. And all these incredibly ingenious strategies that they use in order to get things across the border, whether it's people or illicit materials. And it's always impressive to me every time they find them. What it makes me realize is how incredible are the ones they don't find? What are they doing that we don't find? There's some incredible disguise. I've even heard about them taking cocaine, mixing it as part of plaster, making statues out of that, shipping those across the border, then breaking apart the statues and chemically extracting the cocaine from the plaster mixture.
Bernie, I'm pretty sure
and that got caught.
This was a plot line in Archer where one of the characters was in a full body cast that was made out of cocaine.
Is that right?
I think so.
It's also the premise of the entire series Breaking Bad. The way that they move drugs around is incredible. I don't know, I'm fascinated by that.
Meanwhile, you try to go to the drugstore to get cold medicine, it's all locked up.
Yeah, I know. And it's there's been so many stories too in the press lately. There was a story recently about a murder that was solved after something like 3 or 4 decades because of DNA that was found on a cigarette, and they finally tied it back to a killing from decades ago, literally last century. And it's incredible to me, it's so strange to me how hard it is to hide a human body, right? And that they always get found. They always get found.
Except for when they don't.
What?
Except for when they don't.
Except for when they don't. That's the thing. Those are the ones that make the news. So it's confirmation bias. So it makes me wonder about these smuggling operations. What's the thing that works that nobody has figured out? That like one group of people is like just moving so much stuff across the border because they figured out the perfect thing.
Their master plan does not involve watermelon beach balls.
And I got to assume like most of it falls apart because somebody gives up information, right? Somebody like falls out of the group.
Well, according to the movies, of course.
Yeah, fascinating.
On a related note, where there's all these things in the news that we're talking about, but you know who's not going to be hearing about these items of news, Bernie?
Everyone who's sleeping in for Labor Day?
All them as well, but also Brazil. So Brazil, Twitter is officially shut down.
What do we have to do with Twitter?
In Brazil, we don't have anything to do with Twitter. I was trying to make it a clever segue.
I saw a funny headline. Did I ruin your? I'm sorry. We're moving to Twitter. That's the way we're announcing this. We're moving specifically today. We're moving to
Twitter exclusive show.
Brazilian Twitter. That's where we're going. But I saw a headline for this Twitter ban that just took place in Brazil that just started, and it was literally the headline said, "Youths react to the X.com ban in Brazil." And it's like, what do youths have to do with X.com?
You know, the two youths.
Isn't X.com kind of like the new Facebook at this point?
Like it's like all the grandparents have moved on, so all the kids have moved off.
I don't think there's new young kids coming into X.
Well,
I don't think that's happening.
But Bernie, here's one of the problems, right? Is with where do you go? There are options, and people in Brazil are trying to find those options now. So one of the options, of course, being Threads.
No Place. That's a new social media thing we just recently heard about.
And also, a lot of people are apparently flocking to Blue Sky. But for now, in Brazil, there are tens of millions of people who were on Twitter who now have no access to it. In fact,
AirChat, that's another one we looked at.
AirChat, the government has also announced that they're going to be levying a fine that equates to $8,900 to any person or business who uses a VPN to access Twitter. I don't know if that's going to stand up like in court. That'll probably get challenged and struck down fairly quickly.
Why don't they ban the VPNs instead? I guess you have to have a VPN for other things, but if you're using it for Twitter, $8,000.
Yeah, no, thank you. So I also don't know how they're going to enforce that. But either way, they're taking a pretty hard line on their spat with Twitter.
What was the one that wasn't Blue Sky? It was in Threads?
Mastodon.
I was going to say Elephant.
Look, you know how in the past you mentioned that if you want to make billions of dollars, just make the next chat client?
Yeah.
Coming next year, Elephant.
It's all fun elephant photos all the time. This AirChat one we signed up for was interesting, though, because it was just you do audio recordings, and that was it. So it was your voice.
I like to think of it as Captain's Log.
I like it because you should be able to spot the bots. Like, I can't spot writing of bots, but I can spot when I hear a voice talking, and I can feel that more so that it's a bot.
I worry, though, that we've been trained so well by things like TikTok and Instagram, and their sort of like auto voiceovers for things, that even if we think about it, yes, we could recognize the bot, but we're almost trained to listen past to the botness.
Yeah. I had a weird experience the other day where there's this voice that I thought was an AI voice that was in my algorithm for YouTube Shorts. It was all those movie clips. You probably heard the voice in the background where I'm going to try to imitate as best I can. Did you know in the movie Deadpool vs. Wolverine, in the background there's a Lee Field foot massage shop? Did you know in this? And then now the guy has started putting himself in the videos, and it's a real guy and it's a real voice. AI. And it's to me completely uncanny, unless the guy's AI as well. And it's just like, it completely threw me off. Now I want to get rid of this in my feed altogether.
Oh, and look, it's not impossible. We saw not that long ago, it was an AI generated news anchor. And this was like, it looked so close to photorealistic. It was still Uncanny Valley, but only just. It's almost to the other side of that valley. It's working its way up the slope. This was a news anchor. He was doing a presentation and reading the news, and you have to look at it because at first it almost looks like it's just been oversaturated and smoothed so that it's like real but looks kind of weird until you realize that no, it's just not real at all.
I'm gonna try to play this guy really quickly. I'm gonna take a shot here and hope this is the right one.
Do you know that for the Shawshank Redemption, Stephen King never cashed his $5,000 check?
Do you recognize that voice at all?
No, I
Do you
don't.
know that for Terminator 2, the camera crew refused to shoot close-up shots of the helicopter flying under?
Yeah, now the guys in the video says it just freaks me out because I didn't associate that with a person at all. But hey, here's what we're learning, Ashley. On Labor Day, there's a job for everybody. I should point out there's something that makes me so happy. On Labor Day, they decided that 10,000 hotel workers are now striking on Labor Day. That's when they chose to do it. That's
And
great.
This is a U.S., I assume?
Yeah, I kind of wish they'd done it before. It's very symbolic to do it on Labor Day. Labor Day, if you're not from the U.S., is the day in which we celebrate workers. It was a day that was proposed by trade union workers as a day that we take, where in the UK we have holidays called the bank holidays. Have we talked about bank holidays before?
I'm not sure if we've talked about bank holidays. We're still sort of learning about bank holidays because they take us by surprise on occasion. We're like, what's the holiday? Oh, it's just a bank holiday. And it seems like there's one every month except for when there isn't. So we're still sort of learning about bank holidays as we go.
Bank holiday, though, specifically in the U.S., is what we call like a federal holiday or a national holiday, where everyone gets the holiday. And sometimes in the U.S., there are holidays you get in some places, you don't get in other places. But there are some things like 4th of July is a national holiday, and everybody gets it. That's what bank holidays are in the UK, essentially. And they're called banks, according to Wikipedia. Term bank holiday refers to the fact that banking institutions typically close for business on such holidays.
Well, I guess that's pretty
I
self-explanatory.
guess every day is a bank holiday after 3 p.m., though, in the U.S., whenever I need to get money out.
So the hotel workers are walking out in the U.S., though.
I love it. I think everybody should strike. And in fact, Labor Day is like such a big travel holiday. Typically, like they'll release stats on like how many miles people traveled in cars and stuff like that, and how much traffic there's going to be. It almost makes me wish they'd done it on Friday.
How much Borderlands is going to make.
How much Coraline is going to interrupt your holiday plans. But I kind of wish they'd done it on Friday because then it would have more interrupted those. It's Marriott, I think Sheraton, and Hyatt. I'll look at the actual chains that are being affected by this. Yeah, but 10,000 people are on strike across hotels in places like San Francisco, San Diego, Greenwich, Boston, and Seattle.
Yeah, no, I mean, you always love the strikes and when people band together to make a change. I mean, you tried to start a union once, right?
I did. I did. I didn't. I tried to help Hank Green, Casey Neistat. We started the Internet Creators Guild. It's really Hank's baby, but we helped out with that. I worked on that for 2 years, man. 2 years straight I worked on that. And then it just, nobody was interested. Nobody was interested in the Internet Creators Guild. But I think eventually we will come around, and I think there will be something like that for online creators. I really do, because there's so many people who work in Twitch and YouTube and the online creation space, Instagram, and they don't have simple things like healthcare and things like that. And these companies make enormous money from it, and it's a big industry. And I think they should have access to some of those basic things. It's why a lot of my friends try to get, a SAG membership, is because they have access to things like pension and, healthcare in the U.S.
It does seem like if a platform is taking 50% of the earnings, right, that you would get healthcare out of something like that, maybe.
Something besides an upload and a play button, something. But then that means people have to pay in, and that's always the thing, is that you want to join and, fund the organization to begin with, and that's always an uphill battle. And I have to say there was almost zero interest in this from the creator side at all. Like, for 2 years I worked on this, not a single person in my company asked me about it and was interested in it in any way whatsoever. I was doing podcasts about it and everything else, and they're just, at that time, there was not much interest in it, but we'll see. It'll come around. And I want to apologize really quickly to Sheraton. It's not Sheraton. It is Marriott, Hilton, and Hyatt hotels are currently doing it. So get them.
Well, Sheraton, I hope you can forgive us.
Well, the rest of you, just enjoy your Labor Day. Have fun. Relax. It's your day off from laboring.
Don't stay at a hotel.
Don't make any jokes at pregnant ladies, and you'll be fine. All right, who do we have to thank for our day of labor here?
Well, I would like to thank Suhail21D and Duchess Worldwide Inc. for sponsoring this episode of our show at patreon.com/morning somewhere. Thank you both.
All right, well, that does it for us today. Labor Day in the U.S., the 2nd of September, 2024. We will be back to talk to you tomorrow. We hope you'll be here as well.
Bye, everybody.